Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to another anime review. Today we look at episode 22, or more so, episode, I want to say this is like 10, probably, of if you're going off of like just it being by itself, of Bungou Stray Dogs Season 2. So, I'm gonna say right now, I wasn't a huge fan of this episode. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't that great. The beginning part essentially is what I think I had the biggest issue with. That later half is actually okay, and I'll talk about why that was in a second. But essentially, the first half of this episode, the first 12 minutes of this episode, no bullshit, was focused on Ranpo and that doctor chick. I forgot her name off the top of my head. Where they meet Edgar Allan Poe. And what he ends up essentially doing is he ends up using his power, which is the ability to send people into a book. And he sends both Ranpo and the girl into the book, and Ranpo is then kind of forced to solve a murder mystery that takes place. And as you see here, at one point the doctor does get killed too. But what sucks about this whole thing was that Ranpo wasn't able to use his detective gift, quote unquote, because as we know he doesn't actually have a gift. But he wasn't able to use his gift because he didn't have his glasses with him. Yeah, that's it. This whole thing was very tropey, this part. I mean, especially with the whole locked room murder mystery, which they do explain at the end, which was like his own fabrication. Like, oh, he made this in 2025. Was it 2050 that the whole world was actually set in the book? So it was like in the future and all this other crap. It was really stupid, unnecessary, to be honest with you. It really felt like a filler. So they felt like they threw a filler into a 24-minute episode. So I really had issues with that. But overall, it was probably the weakest part of the whole thing. So I kind of want to move away from that. So that's why I'm talking about this really fast. So the next part where we actually have the story again is we see Ango in the hospital at one point, where Daze is talking to him and kind of essentially he caused Ango's airbags not to go off. So he's the reason why Ango got so hurt, but it helps him, realize, hey, listen, now you have to cooperate with us and tell us what you know and stuff like that. So he talks to him a little bit about what's going on in the Port Mafia side and stuff like that. I think he just wants to use it as collateral because, as we know, the Mafia right now are working with the agencies kind of on a temporary truce type thing. So what we switch over to is we find out what Atsushi is going to be in charge of. He's going to be infiltrating the Moby Dick, and the thing is that he's going to be there with the guy who does light snow ability, where he can make the images, the mirages appear, and he's going to go and infiltrate the base at the same time. Someone else is going to infiltrate the base, but it's going to just essentially be because the Moby Dick right now is apparently very few people are inside of it. Like, everyone else for some reason is scattered, and they won't explain that until the end of the episode, but they believe now is the best time because Kyoka is being held inside the Moby Dick. And we also find out that she's technically not a member of the agency yet, so they have to go save her in that sense. But when Atsushi, and I kind of put the scenes out of order because I think this is the better way to explain it for you guys, at least to understand. So essentially, though, when Atsushi gets inside the Moby Dick, he actually learns that the whole thing is actually empty for the most part. There's only a few people left inside of it, and that's because the second phase of the operation that the guild is performing is underway, and they're right now driving to the location. They also learn that the Moby Dick is actually going to slam into the ground, hitting both the agency and the Mafia to get rid of both of them at the same time. So it's kind of up to Atsushi, who's the only one really that's able to stop it, to do it. And what's funny about this is we see Atsushi talking with the guy who's explained this whole thing, by the way. He's talking with them, who's the creator of Moby Dick, and he's like talking to how apparently Moby Dick at one time wasn't actually a giant mechanical being. I'm like, really? So you made a whale into a flying fortress? Sure, okay, sure, why not? Whatever. But he tells Atsushi that he tells him where the control room is and how to stop the thing. But he says you're not gonna have the easiest time up there because there's a strong opponent waiting for you at the very top when you get up there. And we do see who that guy is in like a second, but I had the timing off a little bit. But there he is, right there. It's the guy that Atsushi fought in. I think it was, I want to say, the third episode of the second season. No, not third. Excuse me. It would be the fourth or fifth episode of the second season where he fought him in the park and he got his ass kicked, essentially, by this dude. Like, this guy was able to stop his were-tiger abilities and stuff like that. So that was pretty bad. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see Atsushi kind of go to battle with this dude of all things. I mean, I'm very curious, like, how he's going to have to deal with him because, as we know, yeah, he's a tough guy. But, Atsushi has to worry about one other person that shows up as he's running to the control room, Akutagawa, who, for some reason, is super pissed off at Atsushi. I wonder why. Maybe it was that he kicked his ass on that, I wasn't now. Like, he kicked his ass on the boat. I remember that. That was the second to last episode of the first season, so that was interesting in itself. But overall, I really didn't like this episode that much. I felt it was one of the weaker episodes of Bungou Stray Dogs season 2 so far, to be honest. I really didn't like that they had the filler the filler like 12 minutes with that whole separate story that really to me wasn't that necessary. I mean, I know it was to kind of show what the guild was doing, and it was kind of like a good thing to show Ranpo and his, to give Ranpo a little more screen time in general, but also to show that he doesn't need his, quote unquote gift abilities. He has an inherent ability already as it is. It's just that he kind of needed the wake up call for. But as we find out at the end of that, it's like, oh no, I'm gonna still believe that I have a gift and all this. I'm like, yeah, whatever, Ranpo, jeez. But honestly, this whole episode was kind of weak to me. The last couple parts were good, but overall, I felt like it was unneeded, if that makes sense. At least the earlier half felt unneeded. Anyways, guys and girls, I hope you enjoyed this review. As always, if you do, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, share your thoughts in the comments below, whatever. I will talk to you guys later. Have a great, blessed day, everyone. Bye-bye.